Season 2, Episode 1, The Ancient Gods. We search the word gods, and it brings up deity. Deity is a supernatural being considered to be sacred and worthy of worship due to having authority over the universe, nature, or human life. We search dragon, and Wikipedia tells us in its historical tales and records that stories about storm gods slaying giant serpents occur throughout nearly all Near Eastern and Indo-European mythologies: Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Hebrew, Greek, Albanian, Native American, Norse, Persian, South American, and Mexican. Immanuel Velikovsky was a Russian-American who passed away in 1979, and he was an author who wrote multiple books. And I am going to use his books to do a breakdown of the ancient gods and who they were, what they were. The first book he wrote was Worlds in Collision. He wrote it in 1950. He wrote 8 books from 1950 to 1983. And then, after he passed away, they released another book that he never actually finished. It was a prequel to Worlds in Collision, his first book. One of Velikovsky's claims was that the gods were the planets. And we type in the gods are planets, and we find things like this. In our solar system, there are 8 planets. Each of these planets have been named after a Roman god or goddess. But did you know that the Greek gods have equivalent for each of the planets? Before I go any further, I want to share this. Velikovsky did not know about the dragons on Google Earth. He did not know the landscape was dragons. So that means to me, Velikovsky did not understand the world that he lived in. This is not a perfect man. This is a man who did a lot of research and did the best he could to try and put the pieces together and figure out the ancient story, the past, the history. In the beginning, deification of the planets. On page 14, he provided us with this illustration of the planet and the language. Sun is Sunday. Moon is Monday. Mars is Tuesday. Mercury is Wednesday. Jupiter is Thursday. Venus is Friday. Saturn is Saturday. In Nordic, Sun is Sunday. Moon is Moon. Mars is TIW. Mercury is Woden. Jupiter is Thor. Venus is Freya. Saturn is Saturn. In German, Sun is Sonntag. Moon is Montag. Mars is Dienstag. Mercury is Mittwoch. Jupiter is Donnerstag. Venus is Freitag. Saturn is Samstag. In Roman, Sun is Solis. Moon is Lunae. Mars is Martis. Mercury is Mercurius. Jupiter is Lovis. Venus is Veneris. Saturn, Saturnus. French, sun, dimanche. Moon, lundi. Mars, mardi. Mercury, mercredi. Jupiter, Judy. Venus, Venredi. Saturn, Samedi. Here are the 7 planetary interactions that he wrote about. The first one by Saturn, the second one by Mercury, the third one by Jupiter, the fourth and the fifth by Venus, the sixth and the seventh by Mars. He writes that Noah's flood, the deluge, has been caused by Saturn exploding and much of its mass going into space and even raining down onto Earth. In the beginning, the star of the sun, on page 56, he writes, it would be hard to specify, even approximately, but possibly it took place about 10,000 years ago. We're speaking about Saturn and the deluge, the Great Flood. I want to stick with the timeline, so I'm going to stay with his book in the beginning, and I'm going to go to Saturn and the flood, and here are the chapters of Saturn. Saturn was a god in ancient Roman religion. He was described as the god of time, generation, dissolution, abundance, wealth, agriculture, periodic renewal, and the liberation. He was also conflated with the Greek god Kronos. The Romans have a name for Saturn. The Greeks have a name for Saturn. I'm sure every language that was on the planet had a different name for Saturn. And Velikovsky compiled all of these different names and mythologies and gave them to us. We listened to the Velikovsky books multiple times, and we tried to make a list of the different names that he used for the planet Saturn from every corner of the world. I'm sure there are still many more names out there that we did not find and were able to put on our list, but that's fine. Here is the list that we came up with. We're going to go through the list of names, starting with Osiris, and see if we can match up what we find. Osiris is the god of fertility, agriculture, life, and vegetation in ancient Egyptian religion, and was classically depicted as green-skinned deity, with Osiris winded up in little pieces, and then his wife, Isis, found the pieces and put him back together. Through the hope of new life after death, Osiris began to be associated with the cycles of nature, sprouting and vegetation. Velikovsky said that Saturn exploded in a nova, which caused all the rains to fall on our planet, calling it the deluge. And then Isis, whichever planet that is, took over in our sky and helped Saturn come back together to form as another planet, and then set that planet far back in our solar system to be in charge of the dead. Set is the one who kills Osiris, and Set is some type of a monster or a dragon. Kronos is next on the list. Kronos was the leader of the first generation of Titans and a descendant of Gaia, Mother Earth, and Uranus, Father Sky. Hesiod wrote in the 8th BC, Zeus and the gods buried Kronos and the Titans beneath the earth in Tartarus and bound them in chains. Tartarus could also be the outer solar system. Saturn does look like it's in chains. Tammuz is the next name on our list. Tammuz was an ancient Mesopotamian deity associated with agriculture, who was also the first and primary consort of the goddess Inanna. Inanna allows devils and demons to drag Tammuz down into the underworld. The underworld sounds very much like Tartarus. Next on the list is Satyavrata. Satyavrata is ancient Sanskrit, and he is the son of the sun god and a celestial avatar of Matsya. Satyavrata has a connection to the word Manu, and the legend has it that an ancient king saved a little fish. All right, then the fish grew bigger, and he had to be put into a river. And when the river was insufficient, he placed it in the ocean, after which it nearly filled up the whole ocean. It was then that Vishnu revealed himself, informed the king of an all-destructive deluge, which would be coming very soon. The king built a huge boat, which housed his family. 9 types of seeds and animals to repopulate the earth after the deluge would end and the oceans and the seas would recede. At the time of the deluge, Vishnu appeared as a horned fish. This is easily a contemporary of the Noah's flood story, not as easily to connect to the planet Saturn. Next on the list, we have Brahma. Brahma is a Hindu god, and he is the creator of the universe, god of creation, knowledge, and the Vedas. During the post-Vedic period, Brahma was the prominent deity. However, by the 7th century, he lost his significance and was overshadowed by Vishnu and Shiva. At some point, Shiva emerged from the fire in his bodily form and cut off one of Brahma's heads. After that, Vishnu and Shiva became the primary deities. Next on the list, we have Shamash. Shamash was the ancient Mesopotamian god of sun and justice. He is sun and heaven. Now we're going to go into Star of the Sun. The usual name for Saturn in Chaldean astronomy was Shamash, meaning Star of the Sun. In the Babylonian astrological text, the word Shamash, sun, was used to designate Saturn. We learn from the notes written by the astrologers that by the word sun, we must understand the star of the sun, i.e. Saturn. Phanon. Phanon in Greek is the sky god Kronos. Sometimes it is used poetically to refer to the planet Saturn. Phanon means bright or shining, and Saturn is a bright planet. 10th name is Aki. Aki, in Sanskrit dictionary, is a descendant of the sun, and the name of it is the planet Saturn. Ninib comes next. Ninib, the ideographic designation of a solar deity. The cult of Ninib can be traced back to the oldest period of Babylonian history. Ninib becomes the planet Saturn. Next on the list is Ningersu, Ninurtra, Sumerian, also known as Ningersu. He was the god associated with agriculture and healing, but later he grew to be more militarized. Ninutra and Ningersu may have been originally two separate deities. In historical times, the god Ningirsu, who was worshipped in the Sumerian state of Girsu, was always identified as a local form of Nunertra. Here they show two planets, Saturn and Mercury. The next name on the list is Belgirsu. Bel is kind of like a nickname for the entire pantheon of gods in the Mesopotamian religion. Next up, Damu. Damu was a Mesopotamian god, while originally regarded as a dying god connected to vegetation. A further epithet applied to him was Bel Balati, Lord of Life. Number 15 on the list, Adonis. World History Encyclopedia has Adonis. The god Adon was considered one of the most important Canaanite gods. He was the god of beauty, fertility, and permanent renewal. The name itself, Adon, means the Lord in Canaanite. In Greek mythology and in the Hellenic world, generally, he was called Adonis and became known by that meaning among those nations. Other adaptations of Adon in various civilizations include the Canaanite god Baal, who was worshipped in Yogarit, and Tammuz, and Dumuzi, meaning July, as he was known to the Babylonians. In Egypt, he was Osiris, the god of resurrection. 16. Kima. In the Hebrew Bible, Amos 5:8. He who made Kima and Kisel, and who turns the shadow of death into morning, and darkened day into night, who is calling for the waters of the sea, and pours them out on the face of the earth. Job 9:9, making Ash, Kesel, and Kima, and the inner chambers of the south. Job 38:31, dost thou bind sweet influences of Kima, or the attractions of Kisel dost thou open? Dost thou bring out Mazaroth in its season? Next is the word El. E-L. El occurs 238 times in the Old Testament. It is a noun for the god Elohim. It refers to the God of Israel. Specific deities known as El include the supreme god of the ancient Canaanite religion and the supreme god of the Eastern Semitic speakers in early dynastic period of Mesopotamia. Among the Hittites, El was known as El-Kunrisa Hittite. Although El gained different appearances and meanings in different languages over time, it continues to exist as El in compound noun phrases such as Ishmael, Israel, Daniel, Raphael, Michael, and Gabriel. His Roman equivalent is Saturn. 18, 19, and 20, Kayun, Kaivan, and Kayun. In the Bible, Amos 5:26, ye have borne the tabernacle of your Malach, and Kayun, your images, the star of your God. Remphan is a rendering of an ancient Greek various manuscripts, or for other translations of this pronunciation, including a bunch of words I can't say. It is likely in reference to Kayon, mentioned in Amos 5:26, which the Septuagint renders as Raphan or Raphan. Kayun is generally assumed to be the god Saturn, the Assyrian name for which was Kiwan. 21. Periaro, the celestial body known to the Maori as Periaro. The name was given to an important bright planet, either Jupiter or Saturn, said to be the leader or puller of the Milky Way, and the Maori knew that it had a ring. There is evidence that indicates the ancestry of the Maori people goes back as far as 5,000 years to the indigenous peoples of Taiwan. Te Aka Maori Dictionary. Periaro. Saturn, the sixth planet from the Sun, circled by a system of broad flat rings. Jupiter and some dialects. The final name on our list, Huang Di. I actually added this to the list because I found it. I thought it was really cool. Wu Fang, Shang Di, are in Chinese canonical text and common Chinese religion the fivefold manifestation of the supreme God of heaven. And here it shows us an illustration of Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and in the middle is Wang Di, Saturn. Alright, that's it for Planet Saturn. In the next episode, we will continue on with more gods and more planets.